from VIP Lux Hair Salon, a beautiful salon that is located right here in the Gentilly area. Welcome to the State of the Culture Pandemic Report from their perspective. We're excited tonight. A couple of months ago, it was pressing on my heart to bring up conversations aboard this COVID-19 as our culture and our communities were struggling to find great media outlets who provide necessary information to impact their lives, but to also give them some truthful information that they can navigate through these uncharted territories. Just this week, somebody asked me, where would Jesus be if he was alive today? I'm a pastor, local pastor here at Rocky Ridge Baptist Church in downtown New Orleans in the 7th Ward. And when I was asked that question, it made me ponder, where would Jesus be if he was alive today? He would be right here in this room having this conversation with some of the most amazing people in this community and some of the most amazing people in our city, because Jesus found himself around the hurting people, the marginalized, and the disenfranchised. So I'm excited tonight to have some amazing people on our panel. Sergeant Ken and Sergeant Jolivet, they reached out and they said, how can we create a conversation so we can tell our story? Not only tell our story, but to educate our community. How do they understand what we do as New Orleans Police Department officers, and how do we operate together? For at the end of the day, seriously, we all just trying to get along, right? We're just trying to live our lives. That's the purpose, and I'm excited to be here tonight. Notice throughout this entire segment, you have a community leader as well as an NOPD officer, sergeant, or captain, a community leader, because we wanted to show unity tonight. We wanted to show you that it's not them against us. It's not us against them. Tonight it's not about us bashing them about their errors, and it's not them looking down on us because of our flaws. Tonight it's about all of us coming together and simply having a conversation. I believe, I'm from the church, that deliverance can come in the form of a dialogue. So I think this is appropriate tonight. So without further ado, I want to introduce our guests tonight. Let's start with Captain Regina Williams, 20-year vet, currently managing homicide and special victim unit. Thank you so very much for being here with us tonight. I also want to shout out Detective Theo Kent, 20 years, currently assigned to the homicide unit. Thank you so very much for being here tonight. I want to say thank you to Officer Sharif Harper. We've been on the force for 23 years, currently assigned to the Education and Training Division. Thank you for being here tonight. Shanti Lation, the owner of VIP Lux Hair Studio. Thank you so very much for, number one, opening your doors, but number two, for being here tonight to have this conversation. Thank you so very much. I want to say thank you, Sergeant Latina Jolivet, licensed mental social worker, 23 years assigned to the Victim Witness Assistant Unit. Thank you for being here tonight. And we also have our state representative, Royce Duplessis, a Democrat who represents District 93. Thank you for being here tonight. We also loved, and everybody, I believe, loved to see Jasmine Adams, her host and personality. Thank you for being here tonight. As well as we thank you, Sergeant Merrill Merricks. I said it right? Don't worry about it. All right, cool. Who's currently assigned to our community engagement unit, who served 23 years. Thank you for being here tonight. Gregory Ravy, the owner and founder of Heroes of New Orleans on the West Bank. Thank you so very much for being here tonight. Come on, can we give all of our panelists a big old hand? I was about to say a hand clap of praise, but a hand. Listen, I don't want to waste no more time, because I believe this is going to be an amazing, raw, real, relevant conversation. And the first person that I want to throw this question to and to spark this conversation is our captain, and that is, how did we get here? We're not in this location, but how did we get here as a community? And you can throw it to whoever you decide to, but how did we get here? And let me tell you from my perspective. I grew up in the Fisher Housing Development, and it was okay for us to run up to the NOPD car while they pull on Big Whitney, knock on the window, they go get us an iceberg or some candy, and that was it, right? When we ran through the breezeways, played on the monkey balls at night, they'll make sure we get home to our parents. But today, I just see a huge disconnect between the community and the cops. And I'm honestly, we Southern, right? So we love to be together. How did we get here?
So I can go back to 2012 when NOPD was mandated to go under this consent decree because of the unconstitutional policing back then. I believe 8 years ago, um, from 8 years ago to now, I believe that we have a great relationship with our community. I believe so. Being in the streets, working in the fifth district, working in the seventh district, I believe we developed a great relationship with them. Also, NOPD has become so transparent um, since being under this consent decree that we don't hide anything from our community at all. I think we had a little setback. Well, I'm gonna say a major setback from George Floyd incident, right? So with that happening, I think we did lose. I think the whole nation, the police departments across the nation, lost a lot of trust with the community from that incident alone. Um, I believe that police officers, personally, was hurt, disgusted. So many things that I could say about it, but I want to be, kind of professional about it. I'm sorry, but for me to share my true feelings about that, it's I cried.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be totally honest with you, and I do want the community to know that I am human. And I do feel the same things that you guys feel. When you hurt, I hurt. And believe the officers hurt also. And I cried for a few days with my family, and just to see it, it's unexplainable.
Yeah.
It's really unexplainable. But this is how we got here today. I believe that us being under consent decree for the amount of time that we have been has been a great thing, and I believe that police departments across the nation should try it. It actually helps us with the community and gaining trust with the community, being transparent, and allowing them to be a part of us.
Wow.
Allowing them to be a part of us.
Yeah.
Allowing them to see what goes on inside, starting from our kids. We have to train them. Up. I mean, you ask kids today, do they want to be a police officer? I just want to know how many would say yes.
Yeah.
Just because of the civil unrest.
Wow.
I want to get back to that. I want to get back to kids saying, I want to be a police officer.
Wow.
And not shying away from it because of what's going on in the community right now.
Merrick, let me throw your community engagement unit. What have you seen down through the years? 23 years, man. You had to see a lot, from the Callio to the Magnolia to the West Bank to the East Bank. Just talk to me about that development down through the years.
Well, let's acknowledge something first, because you asked, how did we get here? Nationwide, worldwide, there's a problem with racism, social injustice, and so forth. But one thing I noticed here in New Orleans, we don't have that problem.
Wow. Yeah.
And it has a lot to do with, because the majority of the officers sitting here, well, all of us actually, we are products of our community. So we came from our community.
I think that's a point where we all pause and put our hands together, right? No, seriously, correct. I think that's a point where we clap that up.
In order to get where you want to go, you got to know where you come from.
Absolutely.
Number one. So we with NOPD, and that's what I love about this department. We have embraced the fact that we cannot do anything without the community.
Wow.
When I came on this job, we had the COPS program, and I worked in the St. Bernard project. And I used to ask, why are officers assigned just to the project? But then when things started happening, I started realizing those people only trust those officers that they saw every single day.
Absolutely.
And that's something that we're going back to now. We took a hit with manpower issues in the past, but our superintendent is going back to that now because it works. And the community has embraced it. And like the captain said, we transparent, but at the same token, we hold our officers accountable. We have the EPIC program, which means ethical policing is courageous. What you saw with George Floyd would not have happened here, because we don't depend on the community to step in and say that's not right. Our officers step in and say that's not right. So we have a moral obligation to say, hey, we got to clean our house before we go out and clean somebody else's house. So that's one thing I love. That's one thing we pushing. But we want the community to know as well. We, like you said earlier, the kids used to run to the police.
Yeah, I remember
So
that.
we're trying to get back to that because
Yeah.
we don't want people to run from the police. We
Run
want
to
people to
them.
run to the police.
Yeah.
So we tell our officers, when you're in the community, let your windows down, step out of the vehicle, go meet people. Don't wait till they come to you.
Yeah.
You go to them and you talk to them and you let them see the human side of you. Let them see beyond the badge, behind the uniform, the type of person that you really are. Because as long as we got that disconnect, there's no communication. And without communication, there's no progress.
Wow. I have to come to Kent real fast before we come to the community. And that is, Kent, I want you to describe to me, how did it feel the next day after the murder of George Floyd, how you felt as an NOPD officer?
Well,
Describe
first,
that to me.
Well, first, it's I was totally angry, just from even seeing it and consistently seeing the video over and over and over. So I was totally angry. But the strange part about it is, I also felt at that very moment, after I kind of got just calmed down a little bit about it, I started to think, oh no, now I'm about to go to work and I'm going to go through the community and people are going to be looking at me and saying, you are part of that and you represent that. I'm not going to be able to go eat nowhere.
Wow.
Because I got people feeling like, oh, that's what you approve of. And there's no way possible we could ever approve of that. I co-signed with Sergeant Merrick's and Captain Williams said that here, that would not have happened. We would not sit there and even almost allow that to happen here with this department. So that's it. It was kind of just all over the place. Mentally, I was all over the place because I was angry at one sense, but then I knew that when I walked out my door to go to work and I put on that uniform, now I represent something that society or the community is mad at.
Yeah.
So I'm mad at individuals who represent my profession, but I'm also understanding that the community is going to be mad at me for what I'm wearing. So it was just all over the place.
Wow. State Representative Royce Duplessis, all that's going on in the city and all that's going on around the state, you have to show up to the Capitol and you're hearing things like defund the police department. You're hearing things like all of the social disparities that we have in our community. You're hearing things like, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm a pastor, but I slide into that bipartisanship, that I'm Black conscious and Black culture, but I also know that I have a church to protect. And so go and represent the city and go and represent all of us. Talk to me, man. How all this makes sense to you?
Well, let me just start off by pointing out that we're all public servants, and my fellow public servants who wear uniform, they come at it from a different angle than I come at it from. When I see what the challenges that many of our law enforcement have to deal with, I often look at them and say, wow, that's something I could never do.
Yeah.
Right. So I have a great appreciation for those who are willing to take on that challenge and that sacrifice. Just like I know many people look at the work that I do and say, man, I could never do that. Dealing with the politics and dealing with a lot of the stuff that we see up in Washington and that we see in Baton Rouge and even here in New Orleans. Everybody's trying to come at this with the best intentions. And we all have to do a better job trying to understand one another, right? We have to do a better job listening. And we can't paint with a broad brush or stereotype. So I just want to just kind of start there.
Yeah.
And just laying that foundation. Now, with that said, with all of the talk that's going on right now around defund the police, I think there's been a lot that's been miscommunicated and misunderstood, but we also have to respect the emotion in terms of where it's coming from. And we have to understand what's meant by that. When I listen to that and when I hear that message being said, George Floyd to me representing just a tipping point. It was not the moment. It was just a tipping point that was sort of the culmination of many years of people felt like what was mistreatment. And now with cell phone cameras being able to capture it, it was just that time where folks said, okay, we've had enough. Defund the police. And when we get off into that conversation, I think the overwhelming majority of certainly New Orleanians, and if you go beyond even New Orleans, the country would say that we shouldn't get rid of the entire law enforcement, because you need law enforcement. But we do have to take a serious look on what our priorities are.
Wow. Yeah.
Right. If
That's
we
a big
say
word, yeah.
if we say that we care about communities and we care about families and children and promoting society, well, let's have a hard look at it what our priorities are. And the best way you can identify your priorities is by looking at the budget.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's a hard conversation to have.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But the facts are that the New Orleans Police Department is funded annually at roughly $200 million a year.
Uh-huh.
Now, if you pivot just slightly to the New Orleans Recreation Department, they're funded annually roughly about $14 to $16 million a year.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think that's really what we're getting at when we're talking about, quote unquote, defunding the police, because the fact of the matter is, and Frederick Douglass said it the best, that it's easier to build strong women and children. Strong children than it is to fix broken men and women.
Mm-hmm.
So that if we invest on the front end, we can save on the back end.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that law enforcement should all be working themselves out of a job so that we don't have to have as many spend as much on law enforcement as we do if we invest in social programs like recreation, like education. And I can talk about it at the state level as well. You know, we're spending way more to incarcerate than we are educating children.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
I mean, that's just a fact. So I think the conversation is, at least the way I look at it, is not abolish or get rid of the police. In fact, I believe police need to be paid for what they're worth. Mm-hmm. That if we pay police officers properly, then you would boost morale, mm-hmm. and you would get a better product. You get what you pay for. Mm-hmm. But we just have to be smart in terms of how we invest, mm-hmm. and making sure that we're not investing in things that aren't going to get us good outcomes. We know that if we invest in children, if we invest in families, if we invest in education, we're going to get good outcomes. So we won't need police as much.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm coming y'all too over there because I'm gonna need y'all too. But I do want to come to Jasmine Adams. All of your experiences haven't been nice, right? Explain to me your perspective of the police. Let's just throw it out there like that.
So again, I want to go back to what you guys said. I mean, New Orleans Police Department, I think we are more of a community, but I left in 2009. My boyfriend was murdered and killed in New Orleans right in front of me. And it kind of forced me to leave New Orleans because of the environment I felt that New Orleans was based on. I didn't feel protected out here. I didn't feel like, our Black kings was protected out here. I felt the violence was out of control and even to the risk of my own life. So I moved to New York 10 years ago. And for me, what I would love to point out is they don't have the community elsewhere like they have here. Mm-hmm. When I'm in New York City, I see it. I see how the white cops, it's a race thing. Mm-hmm. It's a race thing for me. I see how the white cops react to the people in Harlem, to people that got mental illness on the streets, and they look at them like they're nothing. Mm-hmm. And I've even had my own incident back in November. I went viral on the internet after Sean King reposted me. But I was in the back of an Uber pool, and in this Uber pool, I was playing some music in the car. And if anybody knows anything about Uber pool, you ride with several people you don't know. Uh-huh. And there was a white guy on the side of me. He had to be about 6'3", 160 pounds. And he told me to turn my music down on my phone. My music wasn't even playing. I was scrolling on Instagram and sound came out the phone. Mm-hmm. And I looked at him. I came from a award show. I was happy. I was on cloud 9. Came from the award show and got in his car with this guy, and he told me to turn the music down. I looked at him. I said, it wasn't up that loud, but okay. He looked at me and said, oh, you one of those ignorant Black B. Mm-hmm. Don't want to curse on here, but mm-hmm. B words.
Thank you so much. Mm-hmm.
And I got offended. I was like, what? This never happened to me, like in my life. Pulled out my cell phone, pulled the cell phone out, started recording. When I started recording, he hit me. And make a long story short, the police came up to the scene. And this is when I felt my lowest. This is when I didn't feel like a human being. This is when I didn't feel protected. And me being in New York by myself with no family around, I just felt like no one was there for me. Wow. The police came up to me and they said, he doesn't want to press charges, but if you press charges, you will go to jail today and he will go to jail. Or you could get in the back of the yellow cab and go home. I had cuts on my face. I had somebody punch me in my face, and I kept thinking in my head, this was a Black man and a white woman. Would this be the same way? Mm-hmm. So I felt at that moment, I was not protected by the police, regardless who hurt me, even if it was the police or not. Mm-hmm. That's what I felt. I said, wow, if I can't be protected by them, who am I protected by? Mm. So I understand why you see these Black communities arming up with guns and standing in front of their stores and saying, if the police can't protect us, we'll protect ourselves. I understand that. You know, maybe not here in New Orleans, because like you said, and I look at you guys, I know you guys were raised in the same neighborhoods as me. I know you probably lost family members to gun violence. I know that you have kids that have been in poor educational systems, but somewhere else, this is why, you know, this is going on.
Wow. Ashanti, thank you again for opening your doors. Explain to me that those different variations between a business owner and the African American female once you walk out these doors, and some of those experiences that you had in our community.
Yeah, I agree with what everybody said. I'll like agree, but also, I always say that, you know, before I'm anything, I'm Black first. You born that way, you know, so that's going to always be my experience in life. I did grow up in the lower 9th ward, so like my success was hard work. The thing that I do appreciate about the police here is that I know them, I know the families. Like they went to Kennedy, Abe, or the high school, so they make a difference. They live in the same neighborhoods. They touchable because we know each other, and that's important. But not every police officer is like that. You know, being a business owner and being in the area that I'm in, this is a mixed area. But I've also seen and had to step in like several times, just because, you know, like I think I'm a mother of the community, because especially with kids, because I love children, and I've had to step in when I seen like 2 officers hacking up little kids, like, and this was in 2013, the first incident. And those kids just riding bikes when they have kids that skateboard in this area too, and never was stopped. And they were like between 5 and 12 years old. It was 6 little boys. And I went out there because they had them on the ground, like telling them, you know, without their parents and accusing them of something. How can you accuse these little children without their parents? And when I went out there, they said, you know him? I said, yeah, I'm the aunt. I never met those kids, but I stepped in because that could have been my kids. Wow. You know, and me talking to them made a difference. But, you know, those kids are kids. I think us seeing each other with respect is always important, no matter who it is, you know? And then also talking to your fellow officers. If they're not doing something right, like check them in that moment, you know, but even if you see other officers in other places doing something wrong, check them on social media. Social media make you global. Like a lot of people know me places that I may have or may have never been because of social media. And if it's something I disagree with, then I say that, you know? So
y'all too, I'm coming. I'm still coming because y'all two are very important. But our Officer Sharif and Sergeant Jolivet, I want to throw this twofold because it's a large area. But I believe both of you all dealing with the education and how do we educate, and Detective Kent been on me heavy about it, right? How do we get that education to the community as it relates to a police officer have to show up to the scene with at least about 500 rules, right? And they're going to try to put a fire out amongst people who live by no rules at all, right? So, but I don't think the community understand the protocol and the policies and the procedures and the education part of it. And Sergeant Jolivet, how is it mentally therapeutic? Because, you know, the media and things, and we're going to get to that in a few minutes, dehumanize police officers, right? What kind of things that you recommend, or what kind of things that the police department do to make sure that y'all are mentally strong and having mental maintenance every now and then? Let's go, officer. He been looking like he ready. I'm ready. I'm ready.
So with the New Orleans Police Department's Education and Training Division, one of the things that we mainly focus on is de-escalation when we're dealing with different instances, you know, on the street. We also have problem-based learning where recruits are sitting down in different groups and they're working through a problem. And we only deal directly within policy. That's essentially important when you're talking about dealing with the community. We give them real life scenarios that go on within the city of New Orleans. We deal with a lot of community-based issues in talking to these recruits. And I want to kind of piggyback on what Sergeant Merrick said about the EPIC program. So we need to do a better job of policing ourselves. I think the New Orleans Police Department has come a long way in that instance. And we still have, you know, some room, you know, to grow. So essentially those things are extremely important.
Sergeant, as it relates to the mental health, and how do officers find that balance between life because they're still human and continue to do their job well.
So we have a number of different programs that's designed to assist officers, even if they are experiencing something. I mean, you can't just do this job over 20 years and not do something, to get the type of mental health that you need. So we do have our peer support program. We do have our crisis intervention program, our critical incident stress management program. We do have programs that are designed specifically so our officers can call our officer assistance program if needed. Also, we have our psychologists that is available for us. Peer support is very important because having an officer, as officers, we don't trust people like talking about it. So having somebody that actually can relate to us, like a peer support, would be helpful to us. Also, just having our chaplains involved, they're very helpful. And just making sure that we check in. We're constantly getting information through our emails from our officer assistant program, providing our peer support and just letting officers know, hey, we are here for you. And they can actually come in and talk with a peer support person, or a peer support person can go to them when needed. So that's one of the things that we definitely push. And people don't necessarily know that. So it's something that's important that they are aware. We do have measures in place to assist our officers when, they're faced with different issues.
Well, wow, I got to pause and say big up to Superintendent Sean Ferguson. Can we give him a big old, it hit me like a ton of bricks. Now y'all too, right? Because Gregory Raby do a fantastic job with our kids, right, in the LGS community. And Sergeant Merrick's, I think both of you all can chime in on this. How early do we need to start this education piece with our kids? When I was growing up, they had DARE, Officer Friendly, various other programs to kind of get us acquainted with the police department and kind of filling us in to all of the do's and the don'ts. Where we are today, and give me some of your experience, Gregory Raby, with the NOPD. I know you in 4th District, cool.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a great partnership with 4th District Police Department and the police department throughout the city because we work with other districts as well. And we thought it was important to formulate that partnership. When one meeting we had with our youth, about 20 kids, we went around the room and we asked them, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much you think you have the support of the police department and community leaders, and no one raised their hand on 10.
Wow.
No one raised their hand until we got to 5, right?
Wow.
So we thought it was important that we be the bridge between the police department and the community, so that way we can let kids understand that they're, like they said, human just like us, but also understand that they spoke about how when they go to the scene, you have 500 different things that they have to think about, but you have to think about a youth, a young adult, go to a scene and haven't been trained out one bit, right? My mom never walked me into a police station and said, this is how you do when you get pulled over by a police officer for the first time or the second time, right? So our kids, we was taught coming up, me and you come up together in the Fisher Project, we was taught to run.
Yeah.
Right. And so you see a lot of kids run from the police. And
fast,
you say, okay, So, okay, well, why are we running? Because that's what we was told to do by people who we trust and love, right?
We was getting stopped and they asked us why we run. We were like, I don't know.
But that what you was taught. It was to run. So again, I think it's very important that we begin to educate our youth at a young age. And we're working on a program right now to do that, but educate our youth at a young age. And this is how you deal with a police officer on your first encounter. This is what you look for. This is what you should be expected across the board. And it shouldn't be no surprise to the police officer or the youth. Right. And so that's a more comfortable situation. We even have adults not trained on how to deal with that situation. So I think it's very important that we, again, further have this conversation so we can get our youth prepared to deal with that first encounter.
Sergeant Merrick?
Yeah, we NOPD has embraced the fact that we want to change a generation.
Yeah.
In order to change the generation, we have to start with the youngest. So we have spoken with our officers. We train our officers, like you say, some of the things we do at the academy. And one of the things I did, I had some donations of some teddy bears that was donated to the police department. So I supplied each officer with 2 teddy bears, and I asked them, when you're on the street, you see a kid, just stop and hand them that teddy bear. That interaction alone can change a generation.
Wow.
Okay. So we also have, we're in the process of starting a DARE program again. Right now, it was on the back burner because of the COVID situation, and it starts in the schools. So once we're allowed to go back into the schools, the DARE program will be implemented again. But we also have the PALS program, and that's something that we used to do a long time ago, and almost every police department has that as well. But the superintendent was gracious enough. He wanted to push that out. That was one of his first agendas. We revitalized the PALS program. It's no longer Police Athletic League. Now it's Police Activity League, because it involves everything: mentoring, athletics, education, everything. So that has been revitalized as well. But we teach our officers that we don't want the streets, social media, to have our kids see us as being a negative. Someone, like I said earlier, we don't want our kids to run from us. We want our kids to run to us.
Yeah.
So we have to empower them with a whole different perspective of police. And that requires us to get out there and do some positive reinforcement, positive interactions with the kids, so they can go home and tell their mom and their dad, I met a police officer today and I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
You know, so it starts with us, but we here to change the generation.
All right, let me drop this bombshell. Go ahead, Sergeant Jolivet.
I was just going to say that it's important for us to explain to the kids and also the citizens, the adults, why we're doing what we're doing, and then why we're doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
It makes a difference.
Big difference.
Sometimes if they don't like it, they might not like it, but they will understand.
Yeah.
So it's important that, and that's what we're training our officers to do.
Yeah. All right, big bombshell. Throw it on the table. Civic arrest, community policing, I believe wholeheartedly, has become somewhat of a pain to our communities because of media. Let's talk about that from a police perspective, because I'm starting to see now that people feel as though no matter if the cops come, they can't tell me nothing, and all I have to do is pull out a phone, right? There's no protocol. There's no relationship. There's nothing there anymore. Detective Kent, you can drop. No, he looked at me like, Pastor, come on now, Rev. He said, come on, Rev, don't do this to me. How has media affected the relationship between the cops and the community?
So let me explain it this way. I've come up, born and raised in an area that's considered high crime, right? Anybody who know uptown and probably downtown also, you got a family household and you probably got 30 people living in one household in one place. So we had my family kind of come up together. I've had a family member who resided with me who actually got arrested way before social media was a thing. Never made it to the lockup, never really made it to the hospital, and expired in police custody, right? Just like you all say, we were taught to see the police, we hit the chain link fence and we gone.
Yeah,
that's what we were taught, just from even if we wasn't doing anything. So the issue that I have with the perception of law enforcement officers is that we're not human. Everything that everybody is going through out there, we've experienced it. Like a couple of the panel members said, we've experienced it. We've been through it. I've decided to take on the responsibility as a law enforcement officer because I wanted to be that ally for my community. I wanted to represent my community. I think that we are allowing problematic officers or problematic individuals to gain support. You're putting if an officer done something wrong, that officer should not be grouped with all the officers. They should be on that limb by themselves.
Oh, wow.
Whatever it is that they did, they should be out there by themselves. I can promise you, if you think about this for a second, we have a city where our chief of police has always supported community engagement. We have a mayor who you would probably see her any day dancing with the public, like enjoying herself with the community. So you think those individuals would allow their officers to actually support mistreating? Officers who commit these type of offenses should be on that limb by themselves. If even with marches, if you come and say, or even recommend, ask the chief of police, will you allow your officers to do a peaceful march with us to show that they support? I guarantee you will have a lot of people who probably would jump at the opportunity to do that. But when we're looked at in the media, it makes it look like all of us accept what happened. All of us is the same individuals, and that's far from the truth. And that's what's so disheartening about it, because we're standing there like, I don't approve of that. That's not what I represent. And no, I don't want to be put in that same boat with that individual. And that's the issue that I think that the media, not every media outlet, but many, just group that officer with, okay, because that he's in the profession of law enforcement. I don't even consider people like that actually law enforcement officers. So
I see a whole bunch of hands going up. Let's go, Sate. We just go that way then.
Real quick, I think social media is important, because it does give the people a voice. Because just like you say, you guys get grouped, we get grouped as people. Like I say, all of us have stories that we probably can all write dozens of books from all our experiences. But it gives us a voice to tell people who you are. Like if you had a social media, you telling that story, that makes it resonate with the community more. But it also lets the community become a voice, because you might have a situation where, just like I think you said, that it could be a hysterical situation and they're walking into, you don't know like how stressful those people could have it going on. And then that was just the tip of the iceberg that just made everything explode. So you have to go in there calm, So I think it goes both ways, and it can be used positive for both ways if used right, But
well, we're going over. I'm glad I got y'all seated. Let's go.
So I just wanted to mention something Mr. Shanti said earlier about us getting out and saying that we can't. It's our department. It's against our department regulations. So we cannot just get out and get on our social media and say any and everything that we want to say. And rightfully so, because something, even if I stated my position, somebody else may feel a different way. Yeah. So we're not allowed to do that. However, we still have feelings about what's going on. Obviously, that's the reason why we're here. We don't agree with, and those individual officers should be called out, like Detective Kent said. That was an individual officer, and no amount of education and training is going to change the heart or the mind of that individual.
Whoa, and wait, you hit something big just
now. That is
now.
very powerful.
I'm glad the licensed mental social worker is here, right? So it's a hard thing, right? Before we go to state rep, you said something big, and I don't like to pass up those type of things. You said a badge, a uniform, a patrol car. None of those things matter if the heart is. Oh, come on now, y'all should have said this in the beginning.
Things like even when you're vetting people for those positions, checking their background.
So they do. They do. They actually have a background check. They go through psychological testing. We go through. The academy is like really. Yeah, we go through a lot. There's a panel. There's a lot of different things that's involved in when we're hiring an individual. However, you can still hide that.
Wow,
it comes out.
Wow.
It's going to come out eventually, but they can still hide that up until a certain point.
You can hide the heart.
Oh, you can hide it.
God.
But it comes out. It comes out in different ways, and that's where it's the supervision. No, that's where the supervision is important, to make sure that we are monitoring and keeping an eye on those individuals that where there is concern, and get them out of here because they don't belong with the department.
State rep say, I'm coming now.
Just briefly, I just want to highlight why these conversations are so important, because the community at large may not know that when incidents occur, that fellow officers cannot speak out as a result of department regulations, because the community at large is looking for folks to speak out. And when they don't hear from other officers, they're saying, well, you see, they're all the same. So it's important for us to have these conversations. I just wanted to point that out, because people need to know, the community needs to know, even though y'all have feelings about incidents. Now, to the question with respect to how has the media / social media impacted interactions or community police relations, I think it's had at least two impacts, maybe more, but two that I've observed. I guess you could say this had a macro level impact, but also a micro level impact. Macro in terms of just how we've had more activism and awareness and consciousness as a society, because we're basically seeing it, what was going on for a long period of time, but now it's being captured. So a lot of people who were either in denial or who were just uninformed are now having to face it, whether they wanted to or not. From an activist standpoint, I think the impact is you may have an encounter with a police officer, or Joe Citizen may have an encounter with a police officer where they're seeing all of these incidents happen, and they're more activated in that moment. So you have things like know your rights training and folks saying, well, I'm gonna bring out my cell phone and I'm going and you're gonna do right by me. And that could cause the situation to escalate. Right? That could cause a situation to escalate because you have all these cell phones out now. And it'll say, I'm going to assert my rights in this moment. Right. But I think it can also have another impact as well, in that it can have almost the opposite, in that the trauma that we all have experienced as a result of witnessing day after day after day, people being shot, people being killed by police officers, that if you are apprehended by a police officer in that moment, you could be thinking to yourself, I don't want to be the next one.
Wow.
So what am I going to do? I'm going to run.
Yeah.
Right? If we think Ahmaud Arbery in Atlanta in that moment, right, when he was in that Wendy's parking lot, he had a few drinks, but George Floyd had just happened a few days prior. So he's probably thinking, I don't want to subject myself to being in these handcuffs, not because I'm a bad person, but because I don't want to die.
Wow.
And it is a natural instinct for somebody to resist in that moment, because there's a huge power dynamic at play.
Yeah.
Cop says, I give you an order. You need to follow what I told you to do. The person saying, look, I don't want to die.
Yeah.
And we have to think about that.
Jasmine, everybody about to lift their hand again, but I'm gonna come to you twofold. The twofold is this: number one, you in media, and we're discovering now that media has taken a turn, that people would release and broadcast things just to be first and not right. Or they'll do it to be first and it's not even true. Exactly. They don't care if it's true.
Right.
They just want it to get out there. And then the second phase of it is the abuse of the badge, right?
Right. So first, being in media, I feel like I have an obligation, just like you guys, to tell the truth, to go into it not being biased, to go into it with an open mind, right? What I realize about media and social media, I'm 29 years old, so I'm in the midst of it. Like from the younger generation to the older generation, I feel like social media is my generation, right? Social media has this way of only putting out the negative. And I think that that is the problem. I think that we need to see what's going on with police officers killing our people. But at the same time, why aren't we also highlighting you guys doing something positive in the community and showing that you guys are interacting with our kids, that you guys are here to help the community as a whole? We don't see that. Every time I turn on my social media, it's another cop killing another person. It's not a cop helping another person. I brought up this person earlier. Her name's Carol Horn. She was a 2006 cop. She was in the NYPD, and she stopped her fellow police officer for choking a guy. If I'm not mistaken, his name was Neil Mack, if I'm not mistaken. But that's what we need. We need more of that being seen. Like, look at our police officers standing up for us. Even if somebody that looks like them with the same badge on, with the same clothes on, you know, is doing something wrong. So for me, that's what social media is for me. I think that we don't highlight the good, even when we highlight the bad. Now, for your the second standpoint, you made can you
abuse of the badge?
The abuse of the badge. The abuse of the badge for me, no matter how anyone looks at this, when you have that blue outfit on or you have that badge on, for some reason, even if you don't have it on, it's like, who am I to you, right? Like, I can't speak to you in any other way. Like, I'm not human. I'm not the same age as you. I'm not the same skin color as you. I can't talk to you any type of way, because then now you feel like you can use your power against me. And I've had that happen in several incidents of people talking to a police officer and them speaking out, feeling like they have a right to speak out, and a police officer saying, no, you don't. And then them trying to brace themselves to speak out even more so, and then feeling belittled because now this police officer is saying, you're going to get arrested, or this is my badge. Do you know who you're talking to? That right there has to be stopped. You know, for me, it's like, we're human. Like you said, we're human. I should be able to talk to you. I should be able to be powerful with my words that I say behind it. Should I disrespect you? No, just like you shouldn't disrespect me. But I do think that I should be able to talk without feeling like your badge is making me feel intimidated, or that your badge makes me feel like I can't say anything to you. I want to speak to you. Why? Why can't I? You're a captain. You powerful Black woman. I should be able to come up to you and speak to you, not feel scared to talk to you because that you're the captain.
Wow. Merrick?
where do I start? Oh, so much just went down this line. I gotta figure out in my brain. Let me first apologize to what happened to you. You know, I can't change what happened in New York, but I can change how you view the police.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
One of the things I started this program called Humanizing the Badge, and it's actually for police officers to communicate with each other, because I want to know who I'm working with, and I want to know how you feel. Okay, so we talk about situation, and we just started, but it's to bring officers together to talk about current situations and past situations, so we can get that out, so we can know how you feel about certain things. Now, one of the things I'm trying to stop, well, we are trying to stop, is putting us in that box, like Detective Kent and Sergeant Jolivet said. People are quick to say the police. Give that person a name. You know what I'm saying? Identify him by name or her, and let us all go. Because it whatever that person did, we have what's called discretion. And a lot of times officers use that discretion to their advantage. And in an instance like that, that officer made a personal decision to arrest you. It may not be policy. It was a decision that officer made. And again, I wasn't there. I don't know. But a lot of times officers use their personal feelings to make decisions. Now, we shouldn't all be put in that box because of that. But one of the things I like here is we don't let the community tell us how to deal with our cops. We deal with that internally ourselves.
Yeah.
All right. That's what you guys don't see. We handle our business, especially as the black cop. You know, I'm going to let you know you're going to police Lakeview like you police 7th District and New Orleans East. There should be no different. Everybody should be treated the same. And we make sure officers understand that. We have a little black box on our chest called a body camera, and it catches every interaction with the public. And we review those body cameras, and we see any type of bias or anything, any type of police misconduct, that it is immediately addressed. And we started from the supervisor level, and it goes all the way to the top. So a lot of times, some of the things that you may see on a social media, it doesn't happen here, but we make sure we don't want to get that accusation as well. So it's our job to go out there and give that officer name and advise and let people know. Because one of the things we do here, if we say officer has a problem, we don't transfer that problem somewhere else. We address the problem. And if we can't fix the problem, then we get rid of the officer, but we also make sure that officer don't go anywhere else.
Wow.
All right.
Wow,
So we try to fix the problem, because like Sergeant Jolivet said, everybody has a hidden agenda, but some people are fixable. And it might just be a bad perception or something they just don't understand, but we fix that problem immediately, because when you go out there and you put on that NOPD uniform, you making us all look bad if you do something wrong. So again, I apologize. I have a daughter. My daughter works just like everybody else, because as a black man, I gotta have it both ways. I'm hated on this side, and then I'm hated on that side. So that's why I say all police officers should get post-traumatic stress pay, because we deal with a lot.
Yeah.
You know?
I can only imagine.
And I tell officers all the time, I wear this uniform for 8 hours a day, but I'm black for 24. All right. This is just my occupation. This is what I chose to do. All right. I wasn't born a cop, and I pray to God I don't die one. But at the end of the day, this is just my occupation. When I go home, I have to take this uniform off, because now I'm a father and a husband, you know, and I can't be the police there. So it's, you know, we know how you guys feel, because we go through the same thing, you know.
I just have to ask this. Why is the color blue so prominent when police officers speak on that? Like, when they say black, white, and blue, like that's what you hear, right? So what is this blue about?
You know, and that's a misconception that people have. Yes, I have their back. If somebody coming here shooting now, everybody running out, but it's our job to protect and serve. So I know how they're thinking, you know. So we have, there's no, you know, people talk about the thin blue line. There is no thin blue line. Like I said earlier, we all are a product of our community. I could put this uniform on and go walk in a lower ninth ward and not fear a soul, because they know me. They know my heart. That's where I came from. Choctaw Alley, North Miro Street. You know what I'm saying? Lower nine. So I'm a product of that, and I'm not afraid of it. But that's the word. That's one thing we got to work on: fear. Because the community fear the police, but the police also fear the community, and that's what we got to fix. You know, so I love this department because we're addressing those issues, and as you can see, we don't have those problems. But everywhere else, we feel the same thing you guys feel. We see the things that happen, and we don't like it. So don't think we just
And Merrill, just to
Avatar.
add to that, we haven't just started addressing those issues.
Right.
It didn't just happen because of George Floyd. We started this a long time ago, so that's why we're not behind the time with this. I just want to bring up something that kind of disturbed me not long ago when we had to apprehend some subjects for homicides, right? And a young man ran from the police when they did kick the door in, right? And he was the last one who we actually were looking for. So of course we had to bring our K9 units in. And when we located him, the young man, he wasn't a juvenile, he was an adult, but I think maybe early 20s. And one of the things he said was, "I was fast, huh?" I was like, "Yeah, you were fast." He said, "But I'm glad y'all didn't kill me." And I was like, we don't, and in that moment, I was like, we don't do that, and I had to like step back a minute. I was like, this is the perception. This is the perception that we're dealing with right now. And it was very disheartening. It was very hurtful because I personally want to change that dialogue, especially with our children. It's like, I don't want to walk up to a child and he say, you're gonna hurt me, or you're gonna bring me to jail. I hate when parents say, get him. Right. Put him in jail. That's not what I'm here for. I'm here to serve and protect the community, and especially our children. I want them to see positive police, doing good things in the community. And they, like you say, I want them to run to us. I don't want them to run away from us. So I mean, I just want to share that.
Shantae, then Sergeant Jolly. Seems like y'all two are always the light bulb be going.
Right. But you know what? I think that the dynamic in New Orleans, and because like how we talked about earlier, I think people do see that because even with our protests, of course, the police officers did an amazing job, but it was because the citizens didn't cut up because we knew our police officers, and that made the difference.
That's
why
good.
The dynamic was different than everywhere else. Had it been in JP, it probably would have been a different story. You know what I'm saying? Because people, we know each other. But back to what Jasmine said is that, the dynamic that people don't want is that the parent to child dynamic, because whether it be dealing with a kid, a teenager, or an adult, it's like a parent child relationship that most police and other places is sometime here have with the citizens, where the citizen is the child. And even if I'm right or I'm angry in that situation, we don't want that dynamic of a parent and a child and you like do what I say or else. We want the dynamic of more like a professional, like a neurosurgeon. If I'm going to get surgery and I don't know what it is, but I'm telling you what's going on with me, or I'm expressing how I'm in pain, I'm telling you I'm passionate about it because it's me going through it. I expect the surgeon or whoever it is to be calm and explain to me, be the professional in what you do in that moment, because you're trained for that. Like, of course, y'all go through stress because y'all see more. We don't know what y'all going through. Y'all see a lot more than what we see, but then they also see a lot more. So just like a lot of like things built up together. When it clashes, let's not do parent and child. Let's do professional talking to a patient.
Good model.
Versus that.
Sergeant Jolivet, come on.
So treating our citizens like they're our family, in a sense, looking at it like, hey, this could be my kid, because it very well could be, right? Or a family member, until like it's not always. So there is that enforcement piece. That's something that we have to do. But for us, we are very conscious. And also, if we make a mistake, we have an obligation, according to our policy, to apologize when we make a mistake. So we can't just, hey, I'm gonna stop you and I'm gonna just let you go about your business. No, it was our mistake. We were wrong. I apologize, and we have the right to do that, and we can do that. And I agree with what you said. You're not a child. You should be treated as an adult. There are adults. Some people are older than what I am, or even younger. I don't have a problem saying yes, sir, yes, ma'am. It doesn't matter, because that's the right thing to do. So the way that we police, we do care, and it's throughout the department. Now, here and there you will get, but most people, if you think about it, most citizens, they abide by what they're supposed to do. It's only a small few. Wow. It's the same with the department. Most of our officers are doing what they have to do, especially here, because it is our goal. We don't want officers here that are not, because it makes everybody look bad. They're not doing what they have to do. No, we don't.
Shuri.
So I want to piggyback off of what Sergeant Jolivet said. Procedural justice is a huge thing when we're training. explaining to that person if it's a traffic stop that you need to effect, but just simply explaining to that person, first introduce yourself, because we're human. We're human. And then explain to that person why you stopped them. Don't go and demand, give me your license. You know, it's not a robotic thing. Just being human sometimes makes the difference. And again, going back to what I said earlier about de-escalation, control that narrative. It doesn't have, just because a person has done something wrong, maybe, that does not mean that it has to be this militant situation. It can simply still be a conversation. But that goes back to just procedural justice and just really explaining what it is that you're doing and why.
Kent, I'm coming your way, Kent. I ain't looking your way, but I'm coming your way. As a detective, man, you told me it's gonna be raw. How it make you feel to see as much black on black crime going on than any other?
So yeah, like to me, one of the most that's a hurtful situation there in itself, right? Because as Captain Williams and myself know, we stand over people who have similar characteristics as us, look like us every single day. And when it's time for us to go back into many of these communities, you know, a lot of times we get the words, do your job, and nobody wants to really help. So it starts to make you like confused on, do our lives really matter, or do they matter sometime? And that's the question that you know, I'm still searching for the answer. Do it really matter? Because if it really matter, nobody should take the lives of our lives. Nobody should be excused from that.
Well, I'm coming to Shanti. The state rep lift his hand and his elbow a few minutes ago.
Stand up. I just want to just briefly comment on that, because I think that's an area where sometimes we get lost in. When we say Black Lives Matter, the response, if it's not Blue Lives Matter or All Lives Matter, then it's, well, if Black Lives Matter, then why are y'all killing one another? Well, I just want to state a fact that most murders, regardless of community, if it's white on white, most people who commit those offenses it's usually someone that you know, or someone of the same race. So there's a misnomer that, Black folks are different because they only kill Black folks, whereas other races, they into killing anybody. No, most statistically, most murders and homicides that occur are so it's someone that you know. I don't know it. I don't know the exact number, but I think it's somewhere in the 80s. It's generally someone that you already knew. And the people that you already know tend to be people who look like you and are from your same community. Wow. So we have to get through that piece. All right. Secondly, let's talk about why people are committing homicides to begin with. Most crime, if not all of it, is an outgrowth of poverty and economic desperation. You have concentrated poverty all throughout the city, major urban cities throughout the country. That's where you see the high incidence of crime. So people are not inherently born criminals. People are not inherently born to harm one another. This is purely a product of lack of education and economic opportunities. And I think that's where the focus should be.
Shanti, he was on it. He was on it.
But just like, you said, I hate the term black on black crime, because crime is crime. Like, you're not going to other countries and they're not just killing up other people. It's going to happen with you in that area. When you watch IDTV and there's all these crimes that happen that never get reported on TV, and it's somebody of another race that they killed their whole family. They don't say white on white crime. When it's a school shooting and they didn't killed up the whole school, you never hear the term white on white crime, when it's always normally happening within the area of who you live in, and there's always mostly somebody you know. But it's like that was coined in the 80s, black on black, because it's psychological, to make us think that we're different, or to make us think that we commit more crimes than anybody else. But it's not. The circumstances of how we grew up, you think it would be worse. The psychological things that all of us are going through to get us to this point, I think we're doing pretty good. I mean, we still have stuff to overcome, but we deal with that in our own communities through education and through a lot of programs like that. But just saying that, like isolating that it doesn't matter because we're killing ourselves, they killed themselves too. You know what I'm saying? They overdose on meth too. They do all those things too. But you're not going to isolate one community and say we don't matter, or we shouldn't feel like our lives matter, because that's happening when you out here, killing each other as well.
And
killing them by thousands. If you Google other crimes like pedophilia,
Right.
is going to light up on the North Shore because I Googled it before.
Right,
You know what I'm saying? Everybody knows.
I just wanted
Jasmine?
to say one thing too. What you said, we gotta always remember too with what we're doing is that the people that's looking out from the community, that's looking at us, they only see what we show them. You know what I mean? I just want that to point that out, because if we don't show them everything that you guys are speaking about, then they're gonna go off of what they see. And I think that's with anything in life, like information as a whole. Whatever you see, you go off of. It's false information everywhere. You're just gonna go off of it. So I just wanted to point that out.
All right, listen. Come on, Mary. What you about to do,
Oh,
man?
I'm agreeing with her.
Sergeant.
So let me say this right quick. We got to shine our own light, and that's like what she said. I'm gonna say it, but my department Thursday we have officers who graduated from college, couldn't walk across the stage because of the pandemic, so we're going to give them a graduation. We're going to give them a walk. Because the media is not going to come see that.
Yeah.
But if we was out there choking someone, they're right there on the spot. So we have to shine our own light. We have to boost the morale of our own officers. But it does require the community, because we need you guys to be our mouthpiece sometime. You know, because like we said, we invite the media, they don't show up. There's nothing we can do about it. But if we tell the community what we're doing, then you guys could be the mouthpiece, put it out on social media, and tell your community leaders and so forth. So we got to shine our own light, and that's one of the things we're doing now.
We're going to go to Sergeant Jolivet, then Mr. Gregory, and then we're going to, the way we started with the captain, we're going to end with the captain. I asked you the question. Her eyes got big. Sergeant, come on.
So I'm just going to say that we train our officers that every opportunity is an opportunity to have a positive interaction with our citizens. So that could be, I don't know, in the store. I mean, it just happened to me. I was working out basically in uniform and everything. Someone bought my lunch. Actually, somebody tried to pay for our lunch twice, right? So what I did, and we couldn't even say no because she just left the money on the table. So somebody else wanted to pay for our food. I took that money and I gave it to a family. And what did that do for that child or that mother that was sitting there? She was like, "Oh no, we should be paying for your food." I said, "No, we appreciate you."
Wow.
So small things like that, it matters. So every opportunity that we have, it doesn't always have to be enforcement. Most of the calls, a lot of calls that we go on, it's not necessarily enforcement, but there's an opportunity to address a situation. When people call the police, they'll be calling because they've done everything on their level to try to handle the situation. And they need somebody to come in and assist them. And that's basically what we're doing. And making sure that the officers are aware.
Mr. Hero?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, first, it's a very difficult job to do the work that you guys do day in and day out, and I definitely understand that. So I just want to throw this out there. One of our last events that we was having in partnership with the police department before the George Floyd incident happened, I got a few calls and say, "Hey, are you still going to have the police to be a part of this event, given everything that happened? Or are you going to take them off and just do it without them?" And my response was, "Why would I hide the good cops, right? Why would I hide the good cops? We want the good cops to be front and center because we have a great partnership with them." So to go back to the original question about the meeting, what's portrayed in the public, me being a community guy in the community, I can stick up for you guys because I work day in and day out with you, right? But we need to see a lot more of that so other people can stick up for you and defend you the same way that I do because of your work. And then I can start calling out names right now from the top all the way to the bottom of officers who I know we can count on, who we can trust, and things of that nature, right? The community should be doing the same, as for town hall meetings or community engagement. Anytime you can get in front of the community and let them know, hey, this is what we're doing. This is what we have going on. This is the resources. It'll make you guys' job a whole lot easier because, again, I understand, in the old days, I'm going to go out and do my job. And, if I see something going on wrong, I'm going to stop it. If not, then I have nothing to do. But it's a little bit different now. You actually have to get out into this community and show these young kids, like, this is what I'm here for. We know why you're here, but they need to know why you're here as well.
Wow. I started with the captain. We're going to swing from the captain all the way to the end. We can continue this conversation until we blue in the face. And of course, we have another one scheduled with our police department in the barber shop that's coming up August the 16th, because I'm adamant about continuing the conversation and hitting every area from child abuse all the way over. How all of those things look in our community. Captain, starting from you, and this question applies to everybody. What voices we are missing in our community that could possibly foster a better relationship between the cops and the community. And it's not us against them. So all you're hearing today is them. And then on the backside, you hear the cops saying what they're not and they're doing, right? What other voices we're missing from this conversation that need to start being heard, that other people take heed to? And where do we absolutely go from here? You know, where you see it, us going from here?
So I believe we have great voices here right now. We have a pastor. I know we do deal with pastors a lot with our faith-based community. I think some parents. I think some parents of our children. And maybe some children. I want to hear from the children to see how they look at us. You know, I mean, again, we deal with crime all the time, right? So we deal with them on a negative level most times, right? So in my job, I'm going to say the homicides, sex crimes, domestic violence, child abuse, sex offenders. So let's hear from them. Get some parents in here who wants to kind of, I don't care. Let's have a dialogue between us. If you feel negative about us, tell us. So we could start somewhere. So we can figure out where we need to start with just that one person. You start with one person and you could probably fix a lot of things, right? Even with our children, teenagers, even babies. I mean, whenever they start talking, let's get their feeling about the police.
Wow.
Right? So I think parents and children also could be a part of this panel.
Yeah. Detective Kent, what other voices we're missing from that ingredient to cause impact in our community and fostering impactful collaboration between the police department and our community?
I do agree with Captain Williams with the parents and the kids, but I also think that we should reach out to those individuals who may have experienced situations with law enforcement officers, who's been arrested, just because you've had a situation where you may have been arrested before doesn't mean that you're a bad person. And a lot of these individuals have influences on these streets too. So we definitely need to reach those individuals also to build a better relationship, at least to get some understanding of why we do what we do, as we spoke about, educating on why we do what we do, and then also be educated on what they're experiencing. You know, we just can't just omit a person because they've been arrested before or something of that sort. Bring them in and let's sit down and discuss. Let's find a way we can get out of this here. So.
I believe that we should go in the community and we should reach out to each person. First being one of the things that the Bible always that talks about is we have to meet people where they are.
Put on and preach.
We have to meet them exactly where they are. And touching each person from every age group and bringing them in. And that's just piggybacking off of what Captain Williams and Theo said, having everybody to talk about their experiences, whether it be good, bad, or indifferent. You know, I listened to this lady's experience, and that's very disheartening. It is very disheartening. And those are the things we need to hear more of. We need to have those uncomfortable conversations because that's the only way that we can actually fix the problem.
Ashanti, what other voices besides yourself are being a part of this elite business group that's in our city that need to be heard, that's been silent as it relates to either side?
I mean, like I said, I keep saying it because it's true. Like our dynamic here in New Orleans is a lot different. You know, like I say, people know each other. So we respect people we know because they're from the communities. But I would say that the voice that's missing is like maybe people that's not from this area, but still police here. Because I know at one time it was passed that you had to live in Orleans Parish, but then so that kind of helped to change back to people we know being in the community and being police officers that we trust and know again. And then that changed because of hiring issues. And then now you can be from anywhere. And so, you know, you have people that may not have grown up in Orleans Parish or in New Orleans, so they don't know the culture. Or you may have people that grew up in other places or in other parishes that are coming here because I've, experienced that as well. So they may not know the culture or know how people talk. But sometimes people here, they just talk loud, maybe just because they're expressive, or they talk double talk. Not only are they talking back, people just say things twice, and that's just a New Orleans.
You heard me? Yeah, you heard me.
Like that. But if you know, if you're from the area, and you know the area, then you might know that. But if so, just having like maybe people from other officers or people from different backgrounds, and or that's police that's not from the city, how do they view the citizens of the city? You know, or not from the community, how do they view the citizens of the police?
Okay, Sergeant.
Can I want, before she can, I'm sorry. We actually do the tell about cultural gumbo.
Can I?
There you go.
Oh.
There you go. She's good at that. She's good at that.
When you think about diversity, is what you're talking about, just having a diverse group of officers and also community members. One of the things that we do to train our officers is to make sure that they do have, it's called cultural gumbo. And it's a class that we have for our officers so that they can understand how we do it here in New Orleans. Having the Indians, like we have an Indian chief that actually comes and is a part of that. They actually tasting gumbo, just different things like that, so they can understand. New Orleans is very different, but it's very diverse. And then we have a little bit of everybody here. So yeah, that's one of the things that we're doing. But that's what I was thinking. The same thing, just having a diverse group of individuals and not assuming that we know what the community is going through, but they can tell us. Rather than make an assumption that we know what they are feeling. I think that's something that's important.
Before we come to the state rep, Cherise, you want to add something?
Yes, with the cultural gumbo class, I'm actually assisting with teaching that class. And inside of that lesson plan, it talks about the different lingo and how people from New Orleans, we talk with our hands, that we're not being aggressive. Right, we're not being aggressive. This is just the way that we communicate. Different lingo like Wody, Wody is a friend. And those officers who are not from New Orleans, they get an opportunity to understand, because if you don't know the culture, it could potentially be a problem when you're interacting with people. So it's essentially important. And I know Chief Ferguson is wanting to kind of add more time to that class so that people are more culturally sound, especially you're dealing with one of the most unique cities, in the world, undoubtedly. So
hands down.
Right. So we as officers need to be a lot more prepared, especially if we're not from here, just so that we know exactly how to communicate with our people.
State rep, you got a big task. Two things. Not only what voices we're missing. I am a big supporter of our mayor as she puts the census. Can you give us a plug for the census tonight before we leave, as well as what are some of those voices that are missing from top all the way down?
Certainly. I'm going to start and finish with the census. But everyone must complete the census. When we talk about the lack of resources, it's directly tied to whether or not we completing or not completing our census. It takes less than 10 minutes. On average, it's roughly $2,200 that's associated with every person who's counted in the census. So it's very important. Every person that spoke, I kind of went down. I was like, yeah, that's important. They need to be everyone. I was like, I want to steal that answer. And so everybody, I think, gave great responses. I agree with all of them. I think one community of people like yourself, like the pastoral community, you're really stepping up. You've been a light. And I think you're right at the intersection of the community and law enforcement. And you've been a great bridge. And this conversation is an example of that. I also think educators can be a great voice on behalf of many of our children who are coming from some really difficult home circumstances. The parents get to see those children the educators, teachers get to see them in a different setting. I think they have some important insight to share. Social workers at times, but most importantly, coaches, mentors, and volunteers. We have to keep them engaged and at the table. I think they're crucial. I do want to make one last point though, with respect to the the gumbo. Cultural.
I forgot to ask. Is the gumbo good?
I'll
see y'all tasting. I'll be there.
Our director, Dr. McGee, Deidre McGee, for every class, we have a section where at the end we give them a taste of the gumbo. The superintendent's sister has actually made gumbo.
Sign me up.
Right.
Sign
so
me
we
up.
have gumbo, jambalaya.
Yeah, I'm there.
Dirty rice.
Yeah, I'm there.
Absolutely. But that's just innately what New Orleans is, just a taste of New Orleans.
Well, they're gonna, and I'm really glad to hear that class is there. I'm definitely glad to hear that the food is being provided. New Orleans is a special place, and I think there's value there. But I also think that there's still always going to be a difference between being in a community and being of a community. One thing I haven't mentioned all throughout this conversation is that I live directly across the street from a police station in the city of New Orleans. So it's just part of my daily interaction of leaving my home, coming in my home, and seeing law enforcement, NOPD, coming to the job and leaving the job. And I can almost tell, with certainty when I'm looking at a police officer who is from this community and views this as a community that they're protecting because they live here versus they're protecting a community that they drive into from somewhere else to protect that other community. And I don't mean that to be disparaged. I'm just speaking facts. You approach a job differently when you are there to protect a community that your children live in versus going to protect a community that other people's children live in. So I just want to point that out. And I think the more that we can promote the profession of law enforcement as being something that our children can look up to, we won't have to go searching elsewhere to increase our manpower because we know there's a shortage. So I know there's some tough decisions that have to get made at the top. I have the utmost respect for Chief Sean Ferguson. He is a great example of that, being of the community. So I would love to see more of that.
Yeah, and you got to end with the census.
I'm sorry, and once again, we need to complete the census. The deadline has been extended to October 31st, y'all. It is so important. I cannot stress that enough. Just like voting, we can't complain if we don't participate. We have to show up. So it is a simple task. It's a simple ask, and it goes a long way. We only do it once every 10 years. So if you haven't done it, please complete your census and encourage everyone in your household and in your community to do the same.
I did mine. Jasmine?
I think what we're missing is more people like myself. I think we need more honest journalism. I think there needs to be voices out there that can speak on behalf of the youth, speak on behalf of people that live in those communities. So for me, I think there's more people like me and also people that are from New Orleans that left New Orleans that experienced things that could come back and bring it back home. So again, someone like myself, I think if there's more people like this, we can impact our communities and talk to you guys on a human level and really make a difference. Media is important, believe it or not, no matter how much we hate it or no matter how much we like it, it's valuable.
Yeah.
And so if we have more honest people in media, I think that can change the world.
Yeah, that's true. Merrick's?
And I agree with everything she said as well. I think we need to get back to this village approach. In the past, we used to believe it takes a village to raise a child. Everybody's on their own agenda. And if we can get back to that, because at the end of the day, our children are not our future, they are our now. And if we don't change that generation now, it's going to affect the next generation, so forth. So we need to get on one agenda, one accord. And like the captain said earlier, it starts with the parents, because I strongly believe that we have taken discipline out of the hand of the parents and put it in the hand of the police, and it should be the opposite way. So we need to get back to that village approach and protect our children and raise our children, so in the future they can change their generation and so forth, and then we're done.
Mr. Hero, man, they done left it up to you. I don't know who put your chair on the end, but
man, they took all the good ones, man. But I was just going to speak to the point of the village. You're absolutely right. I think where we dropped the ball at is not how we work together, right? How the church connect to the nonprofits, connect to the police department, connect to the education, connect to politics. It's a gap in between a lot of those things, and we have to build that roadmap for our youth to follow. When you talk about a village, you know where to go get bread from and go to who's shoe maker and who's this, and so you have a great idea about your village, right? Our kids are growing up in a village of confusion, right? And not knowing exactly where to go to get certain things at. And I think that's a huge issue for our kids. And I'm just going to defend the parents 1 second, because I deal with a lot of parents. A lot of times, parents do need to, chastise their kids, but a lot of parents are afraid. Right. I have a conversation with parents, and she told me, hey, if this kid can go put a gun in somebody's face, you think he can come home and me tell him he's grounded and he's going to listen? So we have to think about that. That these parents need help too. I find myself mentoring a lot of parents more than kids, right? Because they need assistance. Some of our parents are very young. So that's why it's so important that we connect these dots, so we can send them to social work resources, so we can send them to somebody, a mentor in churches and in politics, to help our kids, have the clear roadmap to success.
Well, we come to the end of the first conversation, phase one of the State of the Culture Pandemic Report. Let me say thank you again to Ashanti Lation and her husband, and thank you for allowing us to come in this beautiful salon to have this conversation. Yeah. Thank you to Captain Williams and everybody from the state rep to everybody who came out to really have this conversation, this dialogue. I want to challenge everybody to set your notifications and follow the page for our next conversation that we're going to have in the barbershop. I thoroughly believe it has to keep going. To the parent thing, I'm a pastor, and so like Gregory Raven says, we have a lot of challenge that way, and I think Captain brought it out toward the end. I work closely with Commander Frank Young, and when the property crime was escalating to as high as in the city, and the press conferences was the parents blaming the cops for not taking authority of their kids, and and the chief said, "No, y'all, and the mayor said, y'all need to take care of your own kids because that's your responsibility." I want to challenge all of our parents to step up because I believe that's one of the voices we're not hearing nothing about, even though we have some of those circumstances that is that way. And so from tonight, I think all of y'all did a fantastic job. Give the person next to you a big old clap, man. Like their elbow, right? Thank you to our production team. Can y'all give our production team a big old the big old, my son said he had to be here for the pandemic report for some strange reason, and he looking at something else on YouTube, right? But thank you all so very much once again for being here. And once again, these conversations has to continue. Would you all agree? Absolutely. Thank you all so very much. That's the end of our night. Thank you for tuning in to the State of the Culture Pandemic Report.